Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful. Today, Hope chooses to cancel the wedding after realizing that Carter and Daphne had slept together. Nick exposed Carter and Daphne's sabotage of Forrester in their confessional exchange. Nick Marone was caught sabotaging the most recent silk delivery from Forrester Creations, while Carter Walton and Daphne Rose exchanged confessions. Ridge Forrester thought Brooke Logan was giving him an ultimatum in the CEO office by saying that if he didn't pick her over Taylor Hayes, she would take Nick to Italy. Although Brooke believed Ridge loved her more than Taylor, Nick finally cut her off. Nick had another chance to convince Brooke of the pleasure they could have in Italy after Ridge left. Nick made a sneaky phone call after learning that the Forresters were in a panic over a lost silk order. Nick mentioned the silk container for Forrester to someone and instructed them to hold it. On Wednesday's B&B episode, Taylor discussed Eric Forrester with Steffi Forrester at the Forrester mansion, saying that he would rather Ridge was with Brooke. Additionally, Donna Logan acknowledged that she still believed Ridge and Brooke should be together. Even though Brooke had previously shown interest in Nick, Donna believed that Ridge was Brooke's true love and that Brooke was also Ridge's. Daphne returned to the building of Forrester Creations, and Carter smelled her. Following Carter and Eric's cordial welcome back, Daphne's perfume line and future plans were discussed. Daphne also expressed her desire to help Steffi and the turmoil she had experienced. After Carter finally admitted that he had missed seeing her, Daphne admitted that she had missed him as well, albeit she was taken aback by his admission. Carter, however, maintained that he was happy to see Daphne again and that they were friends. Daphne's only response to Carter's question about how long she would be staying was a vague "we shall see." After complaining to Eric about Nick while he was back with Ridge, he received a call regarding the delayed silk cargo. When Ridge learned that Nick's shipping company was causing the delay, he became enraged. Following Ridge's harsh criticism of Nick for the sabotage, Nick attempted to justify it and called again to expedite the cargo. Ridge blasted Nick for playing pranks on others and forbidding him from doing the same to Logan. Ridge was ordered by Nick to cease talking and to stop phoning Brooke because he was getting married to someone else. Is Daphne Rose back on the scene? Steffi's desire is fulfilled. We can resume our regularly planned conflict between sister wives Hope Logan and Steffi Forrester Finnegan now that Liam Spencer is recovering. When Steffi proposed bringing Daphne Rose back to Los Angeles a few weeks ago, Hope was not pleased. She didn't want that woman around Forrester Creations, much less Carter Walton, because she knew she was after her fiancé. Even Daphne initially objected to the plan, but she has now changed her mind. When Daphne returns to LA, she surprises Carter, Steffi, and Hope. Is she planning to give Carter another major surprise? When we don't know what happened after we fade to black, there's always a secret waiting for us. The last warning from Brooke until the next one. Following yet another encounter in which Nick Marone attempted to win Brooke Logan over, Brooke goes to Ridge Forrester to tell him that if he doesn't play his cards well, she might wind up in Italy with Nick. Until she gives him another chance the following week and the week after, Brooke is giving Ridge one last chance to mend their differences. Ridge has maintained that he is currently with Taylor Hayes and nothing else. He's not going to give her broken heart syndrome again because he's committed to her. Ridge in particular is not someone Brooke takes no for an answer. With Nick waiting in the wings, will she accomplish it this time? After speaking with Ridge, will Eric Forrester fall into Brooke's pressure and send Taylor back to dubious physician Grace Buckingham for yet another strange diagnosis? Eric is as adamant as anyone about seeing Ridge and Brooke together once more. Like everyone else, Nick is adamant about seeing Brooke again. Which man's greatest wish will come true? Carter Walton and Daphne Rose, cautiously navigating the unspoken currents reignited by her return, while Nick Marone, emboldened by his relentless pursuit of Brooke Logan and simmering resentment towards Ridge Forrester, descended into dangerous treachery, ultimately caught red-handed jeopardizing Forrester's critical silk delivery. The fuse was lit earlier in the CEO's office, where Ridge Forrester felt the suffocating weight of an ultimatum delivered not by a rival, but by the woman he perpetually oscillated between. Brooke Logan, leveraging her perceived leverage with chilling clarity, threatened to whisk Nick Marone away to Italy for a romantic escapade if Ridge dared to choose Taylor Hayes over her, A stark manipulation laid bare in the sterile corporate setting. Brooke, radiating a conviction forged in decades of tumultuous history, truly believed Ridge loved her more profoundly than he ever could Taylor, a belief momentarily hanging heavy in the air before Nick himself, almost as if summoned by the tension, materialized to interrupt their charged standoff, injecting his disruptive presence into the already fraught dynamic. Seizing the opportunity presented by Ridge's subsequent departure, Nick launched into a renewed, persuasive campaign, painting vivid pictures for Brooke of the carefree Italian adventures they could share, far removed from the Forrester drama and Ridge's indecisive heart, a siren song designed to exploit her current frustration and lingering doubts about Ridge's commitment. However, Nick's motives extended far beyond mere romantic conquest, receiving updates on the escalating panic within Forrester over a mysteriously missing, crucial silk order ignited a darker impulse. Almost immediately after gleaning their distress, Nick retreated into shadows, placing a furtive, deeply shady phone call, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper as he instructed an unseen accomplice to deliberately hold the very container of silk Forrester desperately needed, a calculated act of industrial sabotage designed to cripple his rival's operations and, perhaps, create the chaos he needed to spirit Brooke away. Meanwhile, across town at the opulent Forrester mansion, a different kind of tension simmered, focused on the same central love triangle but through the lens of concerned family. Taylor Hayes confided in her daughter, Steffi Forrester, revealing the delicate pressure exerted by patriarch Eric Forrester, who, despite his usual diplomacy, had made his preference clear. He wished to see Ridge reconciled with Brooke, a preference that undoubtedly stung Taylor, forcing her to confront the family patriarch's enduring loyalty to the bridge pairing even amidst her renewed hopes. This familial undercurrent was further complicated by the arrival of Donna Logan, Brooke's ever-loyal sister, who wasted no time in echoing Eric's sentiment, fervently declaring that Ridge and Brooke belonged together, a testament to the seemingly unbreakable Logan family belief in their sister's destiny with Ridge Forrester. Acknowledging Nick's past ability to capture Brooke's attention, Donna nonetheless dismissed it as fleeting, passionately asserting that Ridge remained the unequivocal love of Brooke's life and, crucially, that Brooke was equally Ridge's one true love, a conviction delivered with unwavering certainty, reinforcing the powerful narrative that sought to bind the two eternally, regardless of current partners or past hurts. Back within the walls of Forrester Creations, the atmosphere shifted from romantic machinations to a more subtle, personal reconnection as Carter Walton, catching the distinctive, familiar scent of Daphne Rose's perfume before even seeing her, turned to find her gracing the design house once more. Her return was met with warm welcomes from both Carter and Eric, pleasantries exchanged about the promising future of her perfume line and expanded plans for its success within the Forrester portfolio. Yet, beneath the professional veneer, Daphne revealed a compassionate core, expressing genuine concern for Steffi Forrester and the profound chaos she had endured, voicing a sincere desire to offer her support, hinting at a deeper empathy forged perhaps through shared experiences or simply her inherent kindness. It was Carter, however, who pierced the pleasantries, his voice softening as he confessed he'd genuinely missed seeing her, a vulnerability that visibly surprised Daphne, prompting her own hesitant confession that she, too, had missed him, a moment charged with unspoken history and mutual appreciation that hung palpably between them. Carter, perhaps sensing the intimacy of the admission or wary of misinterpretation, quickly retreated behind the safe label of friends, insisting he was merely glad to see her again, a clarification that felt slightly forced against the backdrop of their shared, lingering gaze. When Carter inquired about the duration of her stay, seeking clarity, Daphne could only offer a cryptic, enigmatic smile and the elusive words, "We shall see," leaving Carter, and the future of their connection, suspended in intriguing ambiguity. This ambiguity, however, was violently shattered by the eruption of pure corporate crisis. Ridge Forrester, already simmering with fury over Brooke's ultimatum and Nick's constant interference, found a new target for his rage during a heated exchange with Eric, railing against Nick's perpetual meddling in his life and business. This tirade was brutally interrupted by the dreaded phone call confirming his worst suspicions. The critical silk shipment, the lifeline for their upcoming collection, was inexplicably delayed, and the culprit was instantly apparent. Nick Marone's own shipping company was deliberately holding it hostage. Ridge's fury exploded into a volcanic eruption, storming into confrontation with Nick, putting him on full blast with irrefutable accusations of sabotage, his voice echoing through the office with the force of betrayal. Nick, caught off guard but ever the quick-thinking manipulator, scrambled to concoct a flimsy explanation, attempting to downplay his involvement as a mere logistical hiccup, even making a performative, rushed phone call ostensibly to move the shipment along, a transparent act of damage control that fooled no one, least of all Ridge. Incandescent with rage, Ridge launched into a blistering tirade, condemning Nick's entire modus operandi, his penchant for messing with people, manipulating situations to his advantage, and most fiercely, Ridge vowed he would not allow Nick to do this to Brooke, invoking her surname Logan as a shield and a symbol of his protective claim. This final provocation proved too much for Nick, the veneer of calm shattered, and he snapped back with vicious intensity, snarling at Ridge to shut up and demanding he cease calling her Logan, a pointed, cruel reminder that Ridge was, in fact, engaged to Mary Taylor Hayes, another woman, and therefore had no rightful claim to dictate Brooke's life or affections. In this explosive, defining moment, confessions had been traded, revealing lingering feelings between Carter and Daphne, sabotage had been exposed, revealing Nick's dangerous willingness to burn Forrester down to achieve his personal goals, and the bitter, years-long war between Ridge Forrester and Nick Marone reached a fever pitch, leaving Brooke poised precariously between them, the fate of Forrester's silk-dependent collection hanging by a thread, and the emotional fallout from these collisions promising repercussions that would reverberate far beyond the walls of the design house. The stage was set not just for delayed shipments and broken engagements, but for a seismic shift in loyalties, alliances, and the very fabric of relationships painstakingly woven over decades. Daphne rose, stepping out not with the hesitant reluctance she'd initially displayed when Steffi Forrester Finnegan, fueled by a potent cocktail of vindictive strategy and perhaps a genuine, albeit warped, belief in her own righteousness, first floated the incendiary idea of her return weeks prior, but with a predatory grace that sent immediate, icy shockwaves through the executive suite, particularly piercing the carefully maintained composure of Hope Logan, who had vehemently opposed this very scenario, her instincts screaming that Daphne was a viper coiled specifically around the ankle of her fiancé, Carter Walton, a man whose inherent decency and devastating vulnerability in the wake of past romantic shipwrecks made him tragically susceptible to precisely Daphne's brand of calculated allure and ruthless opportunism. Hope hadn't wanted her anywhere near the hallowed halls of Forrester, much less casting her long, manipulative shadow over Carter, whose office now felt like ground zero for an impending emotional detonation. Yet, here Daphne stood, a vision of confident re-entry, her smile a masterclass in enigmatic provocation as she surveyed the stunned faces before her, Steffi's initial satisfaction momentarily flickering with surprise at the sheer audacity of Daphne's timing and presentation, Hope's features hardening into a mask of furious betrayal and deep-seated dread, and Carter's own expression a complex tapestry of shock, an undeniable flicker of old attraction, and a profound wariness born of painful experience, the memory of their tumultuous past, the whispered secrets and unspoken promises that had vanished into the ether when the cameras last faded to black on their entanglement, hanging palpably, dangerously, between them like a ghost demanding resurrection. The question wasn't if Daphne had another surprise in store for the perpetually hopeful, perpetually wounded Carter. The chilling certainty was that she absolutely did, meticulously crafted and poised for deployment, a narrative bomb whose timer started ticking the moment she crossed the city limits, because in the high-stakes, low-ethics world they inhabited, where power plays masqueraded as passion and vengeance wore designer labels, the most devastating revelations were always the ones meticulously hidden during those deliberate fade-outs, the truths buried in the ellipses of their shared history, leaving Carter, once again, terrifyingly vulnerable to the siren song of a woman whose motives remained shrouded in the same tantalizing mystery that had ensnared him before, and Hope utterly powerless to shield him, her own engagement suddenly feeling like fragile glass in a gathering storm. Simultaneously, across town in the opulent, tension-filled confines of the Forrester mansion, another long-running war of hearts was escalating towards a potentially cataclysmic climax, as Brooke Logan, still radiating the frustrated energy of yet another encounter with the persistently amorous Nick Marone, who seemed determined to sweep her off her feet and on to the next flight to Italy with the relentless charm of a man who believed destiny, and perhaps a well-timed limo, was finally on his sighed, delivered what she dramatically termed her final warning to Ridge Forrester. Her ultimatum crackled with a familiar, desperate edge: commit to her fully, unequivocally, now, or watch her disappear into the Tuscan sunset with Nick, a threat rendered slightly less potent by its sheer repetition. Ridge, and indeed the entire family, knew this final chance was merely the opening salvo in a weekly barrage of final chances, a cycle as predictable as the changing seasons in LA, which is to say, barely noticeable except to the deeply invested. Brooke's message was clear, delivered with the unwavering conviction of a woman who had spent decades refusing to accept defeat, especially where Ridge was concerned. She painted Nick not merely as an option, but as an imminent escape hatch, a passionate refuge waiting to whisk her away if Ridge failed, once again, to meet her profound, all-consuming need for his absolute devotion. Ridge, however, stood firm, an immovable object clad in impeccably tailored conviction, reiterating his commitment to Taylor Hayes with a steely resolve that brooked no argument. He spoke of stability, of finally learning from their cyclical, destructive past, of sparing Taylor the agony of yet another round of broken heart syndrome, a diagnosis delivered with eyebrow-raising certainty by the enigmatic Dr. Grace Buckingham, whose medical credentials seemed as flexible as the plot required. Brooke, the immovable force, met his resolve with a familiar, terrifying intensity, taking no for an answer, particularly from Ridge, was anathema to her very being, a fundamental rejection she simply could not, internalize. The question hung thick in the air, heavy with decades of history and the pungent scent of Nick's expensive cologne lingering metaphorically on Brooke's resolve. Would this be the time she finally followed through? Would the accumulated weight of Ridge's rejections finally propel her into Nick's waiting arms, or was this merely another strategic maneuver in their endless, exhausting tango? Complicating Ridge's stoic stance was the looming influence of his father, Eric Forrester, the family patriarch whose own romantic idealism remained stubbornly intact despite witnessing decades of spectacular marital implosions. Eric, perhaps nostalgic for the perceived stability, however illusory, of Bridge, or simply believing Brooke and Ridge were cosmically bound, destined to orbit each other forever, was as determined as Brooke herself to see them reunited. His quiet words to Ridge, likely invoking legacy, family unity, and the undeniable, volatile chemistry that always drew them back together, carried significant weight, a counterpoint to Ridge's professed commitment to Taylor. Would Eric's paternal pressure, applied with the subtle force of generations of Forrester expectation, be enough to crack Ridge's resolve? Would it prompt him to succumb to the familiar gravitational pull of Brooke, potentially sacrificing Taylor and sending her back into the dubious care of Dr. Buckingham for another round of conveniently dramatic, vaguely defined medical pronouncements? The stage was set for a brutal clash of wills, Eric's unwavering belief in a specific romantic destiny, Brooke's desperate, almost primal need to reclaim her place beside Ridge, Nick's opportunistic, passionate pursuit offering a tantalizing alternative path, and Ridge's own tortured attempt to break the cycle and embrace a different, calmer future with Taylor. Whose determination would prove strongest? Whose ultimate wish, Eric's for familial harmony embodied by Bridge, Brooke's for the restoration of her epic love, Nick's for a passionate new chapter, or Ridge's for a peaceful, Taylor-centric existence, would finally, truly, be granted, or would the relentless machinery of soap opera fate simply ensure that everyone remained deliciously, destructively, suspended in longing, betrayal, and the exquisite agony of the next inevitable confrontation? Only the next scene, the next whispered secret, the next explosive revelation could tell, but one thing was certain. With Daphne Rose back in the Forrester fold, her sights set on Carter and radiating manipulative intent, and the Brooke-Ridge-Taylor-Nick quadrangle reaching yet another fever pitch of ultimatums and potential defections, Los Angeles was once again the epicenter of romantic chaos, where happily ever after was just the prelude to the next earth-shattering scandal. Nick Morone was caught sabotaging the most recent silk delivery from Forrester Creations, while Carter Walton and Daphne Rose exchanged confessions. Ridge Forrester thought Brooke Logan was giving him an ultimatum in the CEO office by saying that if he didn't pick her over Taylor Hayes, she would take Nick to Italy. Although Brooke believed Ridge loved her more than Taylor, Nick finally cut her off. Nick had another chance to convince Brooke of the pleasure they could have in Italy after Ridge left. Nick made a sneaky phone call after learning that the Forresters were in a panic over a lost silk order. Even though Brooke had previously shown interest in Nick, Donna believed that Ridge was Brooke's true love and that Brooke was also Ridge's. Daphne returned to the building of Forrester Creations, and Carter smelled her. Following Carter and Eric's cordial welcome back, Daphne's perfume line and future plans were discussed. Daphne also expressed her desire to help Steffi and the turmoil she had experienced. After Carter finally admitted that he had missed seeing her, Daphne admitted that she had missed him as well, albeit she was taken aback by his admission.